Right here at 5 o'clock, the jury is hearing the case. The federal retrial of the former Metro Police Detective Brett Hankison started this morning, with familiar faces taking the stand and familiar themes from that trial last year. Hello, everybody, and thanks for joining us. I'm Doug Proffitt.
And I'm Connie Leonard. Hankison is charged with violating the civil rights of Breonna Taylor and her neighbors that night that the deadly police raid happened back in 2020. And today, we heard from one of those neighbors and the former officer who fired the fatal shot. Isaiah Kim Martinez and senior photojournalist Alyssa Newton are live now with the key takeaways. So, Isaiah, what's the latest from today, this afternoon in court?
Well, Connie, we actually have a third witness who was just called in the last 20 minutes. Her name is Janiyah Palmer. She is a familiar name, a familiar face who has testified in past trials. She is the sister of Breonna Taylor, who was living with her at the time of that deadly raid. She's a former pharmacy tech. They seem to be very close. It's something she talks about right now in court. They are simply going over some of the dimensions of that apartment. They haven't really gotten into some of the details of that night, so we'll be sure to keep you updated as I can almost assuredly tell you that this will probably continue, this testimony, into tomorrow. Now let's talk a little bit about former LMPD Detective Myles Cosgrove. He was a key person who testified today. He is, of course, the person who admits that he is the one, his bullet was the one that killed Breonna Taylor that night when he was returning fire after one of his fellow officers was hit. Here are some details of the big takeaways from testimony today. Cosgrove testified that before he and other officers served that search warrant, he inspected Taylor's sliding glass door and window from the outside. He says they were covered by plastic blinds that he wasn't able to see through at all. Prosecutors are trying to prove it wasn't possible for Hankison to isolate a target when he fired those shots. Cosgrove, who now works as a deputy with the Carroll County Sheriff's Office, testified, quote, it's common sense. If you can't see something, you shouldn't be shooting at it. Hankison's attorneys coming right back moments later, pointing to January 2021 when Cosgrove was fired by LMPD for firing 16 shots that night without identifying a target. It appears to be an effort here to discredit his testimony. Now, earlier today, both sides presented their opening statements to the jury. Prosecutors called Hankison's actions, quote, unfathomably dangerous, saying he guessed when he heard sounds of exchanged gunfire. But defense attorneys argue no one can tell Hankison what he saw and heard during the shooting. Hankison has said in the past he thought his fellow officers were being executed and he was trying to protect them. His attorney's overarching message here: policy can't train for everything, and a policy violation is not always a criminal act. Meantime, I also talked with one of Breonna Taylor's cousins here, Kamal Wells. He was sitting in that courtroom. He tells me he noticed this jury being more attentive thus far compared to the last one last November.
Yeah, I'm watching how they react and how they respond to different statements, different testimonies that's being given, to their alertness, to the story shifts, to the questions that's being asked and the answers that's being given.
And I do want to talk about that request by prosecutors. We've been talking a lot about this to include some of Brett Hankison's prior actions as an LMPD officer before 2020. In this trial, the judge denied that request, saying these incidents are not substantially similar to the incident that happened that night at Breonna Taylor's home in 2020. Guys.
Isaiah, this seems to be already following even on day one, the same approach of last year's federal trial. Why was it so important for the prosecutors to start with Myles Cosgrove?
Well, Doug, Myles Cosgrove actually testifying much sooner this time than the last federal trial. I believe he was maybe 5th or 6th in the pecking order. This time he was 2nd, and they went right to that moment when he fired that shot right off the bat, and that's when Tamika Palmer, Breonna Taylor's mother, began to cry. It seems prosecutors were trying to bring his story quicker into this trial this time around. Doug.
All right, more testimony coming up tonight at 6. Thank you, Isaiah.
Well, the first witness to testify just before Cosgrove was Chelsea Napper, who was pregnant, living with her boyfriend and her son in the apartment adjacent to Taylor's. The jury saw evidence of the bullets that flew through their apartment that night in 2020. Napper described those moments as sounding like a bomb went off and a war zone.
In northern Indiana, testimony continuing into its third day of the Delphi murder case. This morning, Indiana State Police Sergeant Jason Page taking the stand over his testimony from the crime scene from back in 2017. Our sister station in Indianapolis reports Page described where Libby German and Abby Williams were found dead, using a diagram to portray the scene. Photos of the scene were also shown depicting graphic images of that scene. According to WTHR TV, both mothers of the victims were crying. We're going to continue to follow both of these major trials, keep you up to date on the latest information as it comes in. Make sure you stay up to date on what's happening in both cases. Be sure to follow our website, WHAS11.com. You can also download the WHAS11 app and have notifications sent right to your cell phone.
Well, Doug, you have been excited about the fall color coming out, and I'm seeing more of it out there, Ben.
I tell you, look at this sky.
I know, it's so blue
I guess
out there now.
The first color we should talk to is blue.
Well, that's true.
And then the leaves are slowly starting to change, Ben.
Yeah, kind of a variety out there. The oaks are still kind of green, but a lot of the maples and poplars showing off their peak color right now. So next couple of weeks, it's going to be fantastic weather-wise and also with that fall foliage out there. And just a great combination of good stuff happening right now. Humidity low at 29%, light breeze, sunshine obviously, and mid to upper 70s. Our temperatures a bit above normal today. Average high this time of the year as we head into late October is in the upper 60s. So well into the 70s throughout all of the area. Once that sun lowers in the sky here over the next couple of hours with our sunset before 7 p.m., we'll start to see our temps drop into the 60s. So nice and mild this evening. All clear conditions remain over the eastern half of the United States. Closest showers out in Kansas and Nebraska. So futurecast is quiet for us. Again, there you can see our 60s for this evening. Overnight low temps in the 40s. Furnace might kick on briefly, jacket weather early, and then tomorrow afternoon we're back to t-shirt weather with upper 70s to around 80 degrees. So quiet and clear tonight, low 49 in the city, surrounding areas lower to mid 40s, 72 at noon, and that forecast high tomorrow at 79 degrees. Up and down temperatures on the way, but still a lot of dry time we'll show you coming up in the 7-day.
Ben, thank you. We have a new update now from Metro Police. They're now treating a death investigation from over the weekend as a homicide case. Just before 9 Sunday morning, police responded to reports of a person down right in the middle of the street on 18th Street near Muhammad Ali Boulevard in West Louisville, and that's also in the Russell neighborhood. Officers discovered a man who they say was obviously dead but had no obvious signs of injuries to them. However, police say they later learned that the man had died from gunshot wounds. If you can help detectives, the anonymous tip line, as always, is 574-LMPD. You can also use their online portal.
The Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, and Explosives is offering a $10,000 reward for information leading to an arrest that surrounds a fire from nearly a year ago. It was November 16th of 2023 when the LaGrange Probation and Parole Office went up in flames in the middle of the night. Now, no one was inside the structure and no injuries were reported, but the office was a total loss. Now, 11 months later, the ATF says someone set fire to the building and fled the scene in a white SUV. You can report any information by emailing atftips@atf.gov.
Soon, the Louisville Metro Council is going to be asking for your input on the city's decision to reinforce a decades-old mask ordinance in Louisville. It goes back to the 80s. This has been a much-debated move that the Louisville mayor brought up after a fatal shooting that happened outside a PRP football game. The ordinance from 1983 bans the use of masks out in public to conceal your identity. Metro government and LMPD choosing to reinforce it following the gunshots that happened outside the PRP male football game last month. 17-year-old Aaron Esters Jr., a student at Valley High School, was killed in that shooting. The community is encouraged to discuss this ordinance as well as possible safety solutions. That meeting is going to happen next Wednesday at 4:30 inside the Newburgh Community Center. You can sign up now to speak on the ordinance in person or leave your own comments online if you can't attend. To do that, just click the link to this story at WHAS11.com.
The Norton West Louisville Hospital is organizing community tours ahead of next month's opening. Those tours opened up this morning, but are already full leading up to its grand opening. So for those of you who wish to still get a tour of the hospital, you can still virtually sign up next week. The hospital is the first new hospital west of 9th Street in more than 150 years. It's located at 28th and Broadway and will officially open November 11th. WHAS 11's Alex Dieter is out there right now and will have all the information you need to know. Just watch tonight on the Night Team. Well, over 2 decades in the making, the city of Bardstown is happy to announce a big new project, and it's worth millions.
It is the Bardstown Aquatic and Sports Complex, which is going to take over the city pool and add a lot of amenities for the quaint bourbon town, as our Ian Hardwick discovered.
Kim Houston started work 20 years ago on the Bardstown Aquatic and Sports Center. Now it's going to be built by City Hall at Jones Avenue Park.
This is actually our sports complex right now. We have the pool, we have a ball field, we have a pavilion, but all of this will go away for our new 80,000 square foot facility.
It's spacious and with massive windows looking onto West Broadway, seen in these renderings from architects Luckett and Farley. Though the pool on the existing land is moving indoors, there's a big green lawn, playgrounds, and splash pads in the designs outside. In total, a $40 million project. The city's trying to raise the last $1 million from corporate donors. But it's worth it to Bardstown's mayor, Richard Heaton, and saves swim team families from having to drive to Lebanon Junction for practice.
That is going to eliminate a big problem they've had ever since they got into having swim teams, which has been a while now here.
When I say multi-purpose court, I mean we're going to have 4 basketball courts that will turn into 8 volleyball courts.
Those also convert into pickleball courts, which have second-story walkways planned for above.
Oh yeah, with the basketball courts coming in, I think it's going to be very useful. I have a 10-year-old grandson, and he's starting to pick up the game, and I think it's going to be awesome for the city and for the surrounding areas.
And grandmother Cindy Jordan is excited for her grandbabies to swim inside once it's done. And if you're nostalgic for Bardstown City Pool as you know it, well, next summer, that's your last chance to be able to take a swim before it closes for construction of the new facility. That should be complete by December 2026. In Nelson County, Ian Hardwick, WHAS 11, on your side.
Well, Bardstown Mayor Heaton said today that there's still about $2 million in naming rights to sell for the Aquatic Center if any corporate sponsors are interested.